Hello and welcome to another episode of All Politics is Local. I'm your host, John Tian. All Politics is Local is a production of the Greater Blackstone Valley Democrats. For more information about the Greater Blackstone Valley Dems, feel free to visit our website at www.gbvdems.org. Now, many viewers of my program will remember that I was a big part of the Casino-Free Milford effort, where we kept Foxwoods from putting a casino into our small residential town, indeed right into the middle of a neighborhood here in our town of Milford last year in 2013. As part of that effort, I've actually become more active in the casino, the opposition to casinos nationally. And on tonight's show, I'm proud to have with me Les Bernal, the National Director of Stop Predatory Gambling. Les, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, it's
really
great.
Appreciate you making the time to be here tonight.
Great to be here.
And we're going to just dive right into one of my favorite topics. I am completely personally opposed to casinos. I think that they really have no place in our society. Prior to the proliferation of casinos, it was the type of thing that only really the wealthy people did, because they were the only ones who could afford to, say, fly to the casino and stay there, and they had the disposable income to lose. Now, with so many regional casinos here in the States, many people have become gambling addicted. Many more people are hurt by casinos. Let's talk a little bit about, kind of a Casino 101, opposition to Casino 101,
Sure.
that is.
Well, first let me say a little bit about what our organization does. Stop Predatory Gambling is a national organization. It's really a national network of individuals and organizations that kind of refer to as transpartisan, like it cuts across all aspects of the political spectrum. And it's really one of the few issues in our country that unifies people, the issue of government-sponsored gambling. But we're a network of individuals and organizations who've really come together with one specific mission, and that is to end government-sponsored gambling because it's dishonest, it causes harm to citizens, and it's contributing to the inequality and unfairness in American life today. That is really the biggest challenge in our society.
Yeah, when you say that it cuts across partisan lines, that was one of the big things that I noticed about our Casino-Free Milford effort. Myself, I have a lot of bumper stickers on the tailgate of my truck. I have, all manner of Democratic bumper stickers on there. I put a big old billboard in the back of my truck that said, "Keep Milford Casino Free." One of our other core team members, Steve Treadle, is very big in Republican politics. He had the opposite bumper stickers on the tailgate of his truck. Yeah. What did we have in common? The big billboard in the back of the truck that said, "Keep Milford Casino Free."
And the reason, this is an issue that unifies people, and it unifies people from across the political spectrum, people who come to their politics with good intentions. We kind of do have a sense of shared values. We may have a different approach to how to achieve move forward with those values. But at the end of the day, we as Americans do have some shared values. And two big ones are fairness, equality, and really a couple others. We believe in government should attempt to be honest, and we don't think government should be doing harm to citizens. So,
yeah, myself, I think government can and should be a force for good in people's lives. It absolutely should be.
Yeah. So that's what makes this issue so cool. So what's happened here in Milford, really, you see in cities and towns across this country is really people getting united behind, what it really at its core, what casinos represent, as do lotteries, is this is a government program.
Right.
It's a corporate interest that's partnering with state government. Not just here in Massachusetts, but New York State, from California, you name it, and that's what it is. So what we're really debating here is a public policy.
Right, and they do raise troubling ethical questions when you look at the people who are elected to govern us. They are elected, especially here in Massachusetts. There are 4 states in this country that call themselves a commonwealth. Massachusetts is one of them. Right. But when you look at something like state sponsorship of casino gambling, it really puts the lie to that word commonwealth. Right. That's one of the things that really bothers me about it. Here in a commonwealth, right. One life ruined, one family ruined is just one too many in any state that would call itself a commonwealth.
That's right. And so that's why this isn't about whether or not people gamble. Allow small unlicensed games, allow people to do what they want to. So, this is not about gambling per se. This is about a government program that intentionally, willfully encourages citizens to lose their money. So we have this national debate today around the lack of opportunity for everyday people. People have very low savings. Millions and millions of people are in incredible personal debt. You have young people today facing incredible, if you're trying to go to college or advance yourself, We have incredible student loan debt. And what our answer is, we talk about how much we want to educate people, but what today, to most citizens, represents the public voice of government? Think about that. What else does government advertise to its citizens? The number one advertiser
is the lottery.
It's government-sponsored gambling. We have the state lotteries
Yep.
and now casinos.
Right.
It's constant calls to get citizens to lose their money. And what makes it so outrageous, the reason why there's 2/3 of the American public, they don't gamble at all. So they're sitting like, well, why should I care? The reason why you should care is because this is dishonest. We're openly ripping off the American people. Okay, we're harming millions of American families.
Sure, families. And yeah.
But at its core, we're undermining what our country represents. Like, even if you don't gamble, you're paying for this. Like, there's a reason why, people's personal wealth has been declining for 20 or 30 years. And one of the contributing factors to that is people are draining wealth. All these people who are losing their money on lottery tickets, $30 scratch tickets now in states like Massachusetts. Texas sells a $50 scratch ticket. Now we're moving to slot machines, which are the big money makers. All these people that are losing all this money, you, the non-gambler, if you don't gamble, you're paying for all that.
Right.
Because these are people who, many of these people are maybe receiving some form of public subsidy already.
Public assistance, whether it's Medicaid or food stamps.
And they're dumping that money into these. So we're making these public investments. I mean, some of which are important. We get providing people opportunity. At least in theory, that's what we're trying to do, right? And so all we're really doing is this is a backdoor attack on all of that.
Right.
And so that's why you see this widening gap between the super rich and everybody else. Because the super rich, they're not buying $30 scratch tickets.
Absolutely.
They're not playing slot machines.
They're not paying $50 scratch tickets.
They're not playing slot machines 5 to 6 times a week, and because that's what the business model is. When you to the 2/3 of the people out there who don't gamble, they're like, well, we have a Las Vegas. I've been there once or twice. Maybe I went to a big casino like a Foxwoods in Connecticut, and I saw the shows or whatever. What we're talking, these are regional casinos now. What we've done is put Las Vegas on Main Street.
Yes.
So if the debate is, should there be a Las Vegas in America? Like that's a different question. Maybe there should be a place in America in the desert, right, where you have to fly to and you only go there once or twice a year. But what we've done is taken that business model and we brought it on to Main Street. So you have citizens now losing money 5 to 6 times a week in partnership with state government on machines, particularly using slot machines, that people cannot win.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the report, Why Casinos Matter.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great report put out by the Institute for American Values. Morgan, if you would be so kind as to pull up the ethical questions slide that I gave you earlier. Right here we have the ethical questions raised by state sponsorship of casino gambling from that report. Right off the bat, does state-sponsored gambling serve the greater public good? Does it help to reduce social and economic inequality? Does it produce things of lasting value, things that we can be proud of? And this one is very important, the long question in the middle. Does it support the idea, considered by many thinkers to be essential in a democracy, that what happens to us depends more on what we do than whether we are lucky? And that's just it. I mean, final question there, does it hurt people? Yeah. Is it fair?
Yeah, and that's why, in one word, this is a failure. Like, this has been a government's experiment with gambling has been a failure. And so from coast to coast, the reason why politicians, when they stand up and they promote this stuff, they never stand up and say, this is a great idea. I believe in this. This is going to transform, our state. In certain pockets, some city leaders will say, oh, this is going to rebuild our city, and it never does. But from a state level, you have state leaders standing up and saying, they don't say it's a good idea. They simply say, well, other states are doing it, and so this is a way for us to at least get this money, right? No one ever says, because the truth is, all those the so-called states that people are going to lose their money, they're financial basket cases. The biggest predatory gambling states in America, Illinois, Pennsylvania, New York, Connecticut, Nevada. These states are a total mess.
Yeah.
Total financially bankrupt. And we keep pointing them. Oh, look what they're doing. There's a reason why they're bankrupt, because this is an example of how not to do something.
Right.
It's a failure.
Right. And now Connecticut is even talking about expanding casinos to Enfield to compete with the MGM Springfield casino that's due to go in here in Massachusetts.
So there's a reason why these states, particularly like New Jersey, they're 50th in the country in their fiscal condition. Okay, yet they've had casinos were
11
supposed to bring back
casinos.
Atlantic City.
Yeah.
They've legalized internet gambling now. So if you're sitting in your home in your pajamas, you can go on and play casino gambling in New Jersey. They're trying to legalize more casinos now in New Jersey. Like, it's been a failure. And so if you cannot address the major issues in our society today, like financial inequality, like the getting government to work in the public interest. If you're on the conservative side of the agenda, and you believe in limited government, this is the complete opposite of that. Like, casinos and lotteries are a government program. These guys get regional monopolies. When Steve Wynn and these other casino operators come into a state, they're not entrepreneurs. They're not creating something. They get a regional monopoly.
Yeah.
Courtesy of government.
Courtesy of government.
That's the antithesis of a free market system.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So basically, we talked earlier a little bit about fairness, and we've touched on that here. But really, you see casinos as being at the nexus of many of the challenges faced by our country today. Can we talk a little bit about that?
I do. So especially if you're a middle income or low income family, individual, trying to get ahead, trying to save, this issue, this public policy, you can't meaningfully address real opportunity for people today, unless you take government out of the gambling business. Because what we've done today, whether it's here in Springfield, Massachusetts, whether it's in Richmond, California, which is another kind of urban area in California where they were trying to ram a casino in, from coast to coast, the answer for economic challenges today, and really promoted by state government, is let's bring in casinos, right? A business that it's guaranteed to get people to lose money. All it does is it doesn't create any wealth, and it milks existing wealth.
Right.
Okay. So it's a recipe for failure, and the only people that win are the people that own the casinos. So if you want to meaningfully address economic opportunity today for people, it starts with getting government out of the gambling business, because no normal business that is going to open up next door to a casino.
Right.
Right. I mean, it's just not going to happen.
Pawn shop or
it doesn't happen. And they can say all they want. There's a reason why Detroit and these other places that have embraced casinos and put them in their urban core, why they're still a mess. They bragged about when they put 3 casinos into downtown Detroit, it's going to produce a renaissance for Detroit. Detroit's, after 15 years, it's worse. Atlantic City's worse. After 40 years of casinos in Atlantic City, that city's worse today than it was before casinos. Yet all the surrounding towns around Atlantic City, guess what's happened over the last 40 years? Property values have blossomed. They're prospering because they chose a different path.
Right.
So one, if you economic opportunity. 2, if you care about public health. This is one of the probably the biggest public health issue out there that gets no attention. And the reason why people are kind of looking the other way from this is much of your public health community, it's using this to fund government, right? So many of public health leaders get funding from state government. So if they take this on, if they call out state government for endorsing slot machines, which are literally designed to addict people,
right?
They're
Designed
going to lose
to
their
addict people
funding.
and designed to remove money from people's wallets. Yeah.
Yeah. So you care about public health, it's undermining that. And then if you care about really the quality of government in our society today, if whether you're conservative or liberal, I mean, most people want a society where you can prosper. If you work hard and you have opportunity. That's always been really, you can change your life in this country.
Right, that's the story of America, is that if it's a land of equal opportunity, and you should be able to.
But today, the voice of government, and what we're providing people as really an economic engine from coast to coast is casinos and lotteries, where it's guaranteed to make you lose.
Yep.
It's mathematically guaranteed. The more you play the lottery, the more you play slot machines, you're going to lose all your money.
Yeah.
And so it's rigged against you. So when you have here in Massachusetts, you now become a national figure. You have Senator Elizabeth Warren standing up and saying, "Look, the economy is rigged.
Yeah.
This whole thing is rigged against you."
A rigged game, yeah.
What's the poster child for that? The government's embrace of casinos and lotteries,
which
the
is
epitome of a rigged
game.
game. Yeah. So people say, well, casinos, they provide their hotels, their spa,
it's entertainment.
But you know something? It's never been illegal to run a hotel. It's never been illegal to run a restaurant. Okay. The reason why casinos and lotteries are illegal, unless government is a partner with you, partner in your business, is because it's been illegal to cheat and exploit people.
Right.
And that's what this business model is.
Right, and it puts our people who we elect to govern us into the position of exploiting the citizenry. Again, it comes back to my point about having a commonwealth. Do we have a commonwealth in Massachusetts, or don't we?
Right.
I don't think we do, and especially now that casinos are in. I mean, look at the emphasis on the state lottery. We recently shared that clip from John Oliver's show, where he talked about state lotteries and the way that he ended that with the crossed fingers from the Oregon State Lottery. No wonder, their symbol is a crossed finger.
Well, that piece, I mean, and I always, when I actually give my stump speech around the country, I actually always point to the state of Oregon, the Oregon Lottery, because for those of you who didn't see it, the Oregon Lottery has a branding symbol. And so think about 8,000 locations across the state of Oregon with bright orange signs, with white lettering, and 2 crossed fingers. Okay, so what they're encouraging people, it's luck, right? Life is your opportunity here in this country is not about how hard you work or getting educated or saving money. It's all luck. You have no control over it. Like, what a lie! That defies everything that we're supposed to represent as a country. But the irony is, right? We look back during the Great Depression, right, where people, millions and millions of Americans were out of work. Government was going broke. We had a world war to fund. And what's during that era? What's the iconic image, right? It's Rosie the Riveter, right? Rosie with her biceps flexed, right? Her biceps is flexed, and the message is we can do it, right?
We can work hard and we can do it.
And we call that generation now. We look back at the people that grew up in that era, and we call them the greatest generation, right? Because it was about this. Now we've gone to a biceps flexed to this. And it's really a lie, right? 2 crossed fingers means it's a lie.
It's the universal symbol for I'm lying to you.
That's right. Think of it. What a change! And this isn't some happening in the shadows of society.
It's right.
This is the public voice of government to most citizens. Lottery and casino advertising represents the primary way that government communicates to most citizens today.
Right.
So and 2/3 of the American public who doesn't gamble, they know it's a lie. So it enhances the cynicism we have towards government. So that's why it matters. So if you don't gamble, this issue impacts you in so many ways. And that's why I think it draws people like you and me and many others to this topic. Like, once you look at it, most people, if you don't, if you don't gamble, how does this issue impact you? Once you start to look at it and you dig into it, you realize what a lie it is, what a ripoff it is, And so and then once you learn about it, there's no turning back. Like, you feel compelled to act.
Yeah. Well, it's you look at things like Keno. Keno is ubiquitous. It's everywhere.
That's right.
All right. And how many times I've been down at the store 24 in the center of town here. Tedeschi's it is now. It used to be a store 24, but now it's Tedeschi's. They have a Keno terminal in there, and they have people that hang around there all day long.
And those in the state lotteries, whether it's Massachusetts, they know that.
Yeah.
In state lotteries, 80% of the revenue in state lotteries comes from 10% of the players.
Yeah.
Okay, it's right from the New York Times.
Yep.
Okay, so you have a small amount of people who actually play the lottery. They're losing all this money. Okay, and then 2/3 of citizens don't even gamble at all. Okay, simply playing the lottery. So really, what you're looking at is probably probably less than 5% of the population is actually losing billions of dollars.
Yes.
In your name and in my name, as if that's some kind of as if that's okay. Like, we're exploiting people, we're harming people, and contributing to this incredible, lie about our society. It's unjust.
Right. To my mind, it's the ultimate in regressive taxation. It really is. It takes, and even just for the small gain the government gets, it takes such a large piece of the pie out of the economy, directly out of the economy. There goes the multiplier effect that all income has. When I go and I pay a bill, that becomes income to another person. He now has to pay income tax on that, and he goes and he pays his bills with that, and it multiplies and goes on like that. But casinos, they just remove that money from the economy.
That's right. And the irony is, some people will say, well, Les, if government wasn't doing this, right, you'd have the mob doing it, right? It'd be illegal. People would be doing this anyways. That is absolutely not true. Certainly, the mob would be running gambling rings, but you know what? The mob is still running gambling rings.
Right.
There's not, in the history of the United States, there's not evidence from any jurisdiction, okay? There's no evidence from any jurisdiction in the country that's ever shown that illegal gambling has gone down with the introduction of legalized gambling. Because all it does is it gives, if you legalize a sports book, well, you know what? The illegal guy, he doesn't have to pay taxes on his, so he gives you a better rate. So if you go gamble with him,
right.
It's still happening. None of this stuff changes.
Right.
You have now, instead of, if you wanted to gamble illegally, you had to go find them. They weren't advertising on television.
Right.
They're not mailing you free play like casinos. They mail you free slots play to your house.
Sure.
Think about that. The local mob, he's not doing any of that stuff. And frankly, when you went broke, sure, maybe the mob guy would threaten you, but you know what? At least the police generally were on your side.
Generally on your side.
Now, when police, when they see predatory gambling as a revenue issue. So here you have casinos and lotteries exploiting the heck out of people, out of everyday
and
citizens,
putting a lien on your home, et cetera.
that
If you
no
owe
other
money.
business can get away with.
Yep.
Because we see it now as well. Sure, that guy just lost 10 grand, but you know what? It's a
He's
revenue.
a loser.
Yeah. And that's what's outrageous. And so, and actually, I just want to bring up the word loser, because this is one of my favorite anecdotes about this story. So for those of you who are watching at home, if you don't remember anything else about this conversation tonight, remember this story. The New York Times reporter went out to IGT, and IGT is the #1 slot machine maker in the country. Mm-hmm. So the New York Times reporter went out there, he was doing a story on slot machines, and he went around to each employee out there and he asked them, do you gamble? Do you play the slot machines that you make? To a person, none of them played slot machines. Okay,
Right.
they design them, they profit from them,
Right.
they didn't use them. He asked one final guy, hey, do you play the slot machines that you design? Okay, and this is what he said, the slot machine maker, to a New York Times reporter. He said, first he spit on the floor. Slots are for losers, he said. Think about that. Slots are for losers. How many people work in a business, okay, when they refer to their customers as a loser?
Right.
I can't think of any,
Right.
except for this one.
Right.
Okay? And the irony is that the guy doesn't even gamble. So that's what underscores what a public ripoff of this is, what a lie it is. All these major casino operators in America, the slot machine makers, the politicians that promote this stuff, none of them lose their own money gambling.
Right.
So when they stand up and they say, well, it's like casinos are like going to the movies or going out to dinner.
Yeah, benign entertainment. Yeah.
I tell you what, Julia Roberts watches the movies she makes. The local restaurant chef across the street, he eats the food he serves.
Yes.
Robert Mondavi, when he was alive, and the wine, he drank the wine that he made.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
The guys that run casinos, Steve Wynn, doesn't gamble.
Doesn't gamble.
What a lie that is, and there's a reason for that. So that's why take state government out of this and stop exploiting citizens, and creating more financial inequality and unfairness in our country.
Right. One of the points that I made many times during my advocacy for the Question 3 campaign here in Massachusetts, our losing campaign and an effort to repeal the casino deal. But I represented them several times, several different ballot question forums and other venues. And one of the points that I made repeatedly was, the other side talked all about jobs. That was the only thing that they could say positive in their own defense was, they actually called themselves the Coalition to Protect Mass Jobs. Yeah. And I said, well, but are they good jobs? Let's take a real good look at this. Are they good jobs? To my mind, a good job doesn't drain a child's college fund, okay? A good job doesn't drain somebody's life savings or their retirement account. A good job doesn't drive your neighbor to despair and suicide. And these are not good jobs. What was it Jesus said about doing unto the least of you?
That's right.
That you do unto me. It flies in the face of logic to me that anybody would even want to hold a job like that. Right. Like you say, the guy that called people who use the slots losers.
That's right.
What a horrible job he has,
right.
Designing an addictive system.
It's dishonest. It's
Exactly.
totally dishonest, and it's hard. But the thing I'd say, in addition to the jobs argument, kind of more simply, kind of summarizing everything you just said, is casino jobs produce inequality.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
Yeah.
These are jobs that create inequality in America. Yeah. So if you want a casino, that's what you're voting for. You vote for a casino job, you're voting for more inequality. Okay? And there's one statistic that I think captures the total dishonesty of and the harm of this public policy, and especially through the lens of the so-called jobs argument. It's this: is if you after the show, if you were to call up the State of Illinois Gambling Commission, okay, it's the commission that oversees, the casinos in Illinois. They operate something called the self-exclusion list.
Right.
Whereas you, the addict, okay, is how rigged it is. You, the addict, have to go in to the casino and say, ban me from here. I'm an addict. I've been here for every day for the last 30 days, for hours and hours.
I've lost all my money.
You have to put me on this list
whatever.
to ban me from the casino, okay? And so most people, your viewers should know that roughly 90 to 95% of gambling addicts never come forward for help. So most people don't even have the wherewithal to go into the casino and put themselves on a ban list, because really, by definition, someone who's an addict has no free will, right? So the whole thing of self-exclusion is just a phony, symbol of this idea of responsible gambling that casinos like to talk, it's all, it's just for show, as if they really care about people.
Right.
So the truth is, so roughly 90 to 95% of people don't even come forward. So really, the people that do put themselves on self-exclusion list is just a smidgen. But all that being said, there's more than 11,000 citizens in the state of Illinois today.
Right, on that self-exclusion list.
And guess how many people work at the state's casinos?
7,800, I think.
Roughly 7,200 people.
72.
There's there's a 30% more people who've come forward to ban themselves from the casino, to say, this is ruining my life.
Right.
Stop, from coming. Then there's people that actually work there, and that includes part-time jobs.
Right.
So if that's not the epitome of a failed public policy, of a public ripoff,
right.
I can't think of anything else as bad.
If you do the math on that, it's likely that they've created about 20 times more problem gamblers than they have jobs.
And that's why, whether it's here in Massachusetts or any other state, when casinos come in, they'll say, oh, the people want us, right? They want us to come in, yet they have to outspend, they have to invest like hundreds of millions of dollars on phony public relations narratives to get people to drag it across the finish line. Because if they really had an honest conversation about what they do, it would be, no one would vote for it.
Right. Right.
So that's what makes it so, that's why they come in. A state like Massachusetts during the repeal campaign.
Well, they spent $14 million. They totally outspent us.
That's what they've reported so far. There's still another, and why, if people wanted this, right? If people wanted it, why would you have to spend that much money?
Right.
Right.
Well, here in Milford, the Foxwoods outspent us. Casino Free Milford raised $32,000. Foxwoods spent $1.3 million promoting their casino. We raised $32,000. We only spent 28 of it. At the end of our campaign, we crushed them. We threw them out 2-1.
And why is that? Why do they have to spend so much? Because they're selling a lie to people.
Right.
And so in the short term, it's frustrating as heck for good people who are out there fighting this. But in the long term, the truth comes out.
Right.
And that's what you're seeing now. Atlantic City is imploding. You have this incredible financial inequality in our society today. People, our movement in our country is growing larger and larger to stop predatory gambling. You had a citizens movement here in Massachusetts that overcame every possible hurdle that they could throw in their face, and they still
Even
got on the ballot.
Off the ballot.
Yeah, I mean, so just to get on the ballot in Massachusetts, they couldn't start their campaign until July 1st.
Right.
Because the political establishment did everything they could to keep it from even going to the ballot.
Right.
Okay. So this is a movement. It's inevitable that casinos and lotteries will be repealed in America. It's inevitable, and the reason for that is because you cannot meaningfully have a society that offers equal opportunity and offers fairness to people, and address the real economic challenges in our country today, as long as government, in its daily voice to citizens, is a lie to people. It's ripping people off. It's inevitable it will fail. And you'll see that's why historically this whole runabout with casinos particularly has been over the last 15 years, and now it's going to flip. So if we were a stock, you'd want to put your retirement in this.
Well, that's, I've seen things like so many people when they're proposing casinos, the people on the other side of the argument here with Casino Free Milford, they would say things like, well, look at this casino. This casino was opened in 2011, and everybody in the town, they love it. They think it's fantastic. And this one was opened in 2012, and everybody loves it. Well, there's the issue right there in a nutshell. The economic benefits of a casino are short-term, immediate. You see some immediate boost in the town's income. You see some immediate tax benefits. You see people getting jobs, et cetera. The problems with casinos are long-term, and they're more permanent. And it just really, like you say, and you look at Atlantic City, 40 years of casinos, and they're imploding. The city is just falling apart.
The way I like to describe what you just said is, in 2 words, is phony prosperity.
Yes.
Right, phony. So let's look back with the famous, subprime lending scandal, right? In the late part of the last decade, you had these mortgage banks, issuing loans for like $500,000 to people to buy these huge homes, but like the people were making like 40 grand a year.
Right.
Okay.
Right. No income verification.
Yeah.
et
But the
cetera.
stock market's, booming, and the mortgage brokers have made a commission on the loan. They're making tons of money, right? They load up. This is the greatest thing ever. But what happens, right? It's phony. It's not real. People who are making 40 grand a year, they can't afford a $500,000 house.
Right.
So ultimately, that loan's going to go bad. And so people can bask in the glow of a casino. It's a business that all it does is milks existing wealth, and the only people that make money on it are the people that own them.
Right. Right.
And that's what's so outrageous about it. And the interesting thing is when these casino proponents stand up and they'll give these isolated cases of, oh, look at this town, it did well. The people that they always quote, frankly, are public officials.
Yeah.
The people who brought in. So they'll quote the police chief. They'll quote, the mayor of the city. Or, I mean, what are they going to say? They're getting, public dollars from the thing. It's not like you're not, introducing. You're not going to Joe in the street saying, "Hey, has your housing property value gone up since they brought this casino in?" Of course, it hasn't. That's why the data shows property values go down for casinos, because the whole thing is such a scam.
Yep.
And it's going to collapse, and that's why the people here in Milford, or whatever. It's interesting. There's hundreds of groups like what happened here in Milford all across this country.
Yep.
That spur up and led by good people from both sides of the spectrum, and those people, they stay with this issue. So it's inevitable that casinos will be repealed in America. You will see state lotteries be dramatically phased out, at least rolled back. Because the whole thing, it's totally out of control right now.
But we've actually, Casino Free Milford actually stayed together. We formed a group called Citizens for Milford. So we kept our same initials. And we've stayed together, and we're now doing things not so much politically in town, although we do host candidates forums when elections come up and stuff like that. But one of the things that we did at the end of our fight was we put together a document that gives people a roadmap. If you have to fight a casino in your location, you can use our roadmap to help you to organize yourself, and it talks about all the different grassroots stuff that we did.
Yeah, well, and I have to say, I've actually, and you may recall, some of your colleagues in the Casino Free Milford group, I've actually connected with other local groups around the country to share that document. So because we go, I've spoken in probably 1,000 towns, all over this country.
Right.
And what you guys did, it was really important, and because people, the biggest challenge people have on this issue is, especially when they get into it, is like, well, how can we win, right? They have so much money. The political establishment was with us. The media doesn't really cover it the way we want it to. It's a complex. So you have all the excuses in the world, right? But once they realize, people, you have to give people hope. In every social issue, putting predatory gambling aside, every major social issue in American history always kind of starts out with a similar type of story, right? It's just a small amount of people starting out saying, this is messed up. We need to do something, and then it grows. Because what's great about this is that the truth never ends. Like once you have the truth on your side, man.
Exactly.
It's just
exactly.
that's the most powerful thing. So people say, well, how do you deal with the lobbying money and stuff? Well, we have the best, most important thing in any lobbying campaign.
Yeah, the truth.
We have the truth. We have the evidence. Like the facts are the facts.
In fact, I think that's how we opened our document, saying, just remember, you have the truth on your side.
Yeah, and so they'll buy their research, and Oxford Economics, this phony, this consultancy firm with the Oxford name in it, make it look all sound good, and they have the Harvard School of Addictions, which is funded by gambling interests, but they'll say, oh, look at the Harvard branding. It's all a scam. Look at the independent data. Look at the results of these communities. It's clear. Yep. And that's why it's never been illegal, as I said, to run a hotel or run a restaurant. It's been illegal to cheat and exploit people.
Right.
And right now we've legalized it, but once again, in our lifetimes, you will see major reform. Well, once again, it'll be illegal to cheat and exploit people.
Well, we also, within that Why Casinos Matter report, we have the best practices that they said, well, if you're going to have casinos, then perhaps you should institute these best practices. Morgan, if you could pull up our best practice document. Some of these best practices are awesome. Prohibiting gambling advertising, just like we do with cigarettes. I mean, I see Foxwoods ads on my TV all the time. We haven't prohibited gambling ads here in Massachusetts. They say, our legislators say that our gambling legislation is the best in the country. I don't see any of these best practices in there.
Well, and let's take even just the first one, right? That eliminating casino advertising. We hear all the time, well people want, the casino interests will say, well, people want us, right? So if they want, why do you need to advertise, right? I mean, why are you sending direct mail to people's homes who have never gambled before, offering them $50 worth of free slots play to come on down? Like, why are you doing that? Because their business model is about finding the out-of-control player.
Right.
There's 11 independent studies over the last decade. 11, okay, independent studies that show that between 35 to 60% of slot machine profits come from addicted gamblers.
Right.
Okay, it's all about the out-of-control player. So the advertising, it's all about finding more, because they burn through those addicts and they got to find more.
Right.
You know?
And another thing they do is they give away, oh, you've won a vacation. You've won a vacation to Atlantic City. You get to stay in this casino, and we'll give you $100 worth of chips to gamble on the casino floor and all that stuff. That's not a free vacation.
That's right.
That's a free opportunity to lose all your money.
That's right. That's right. So, but those other ones, we talked about, the best practices that were in the Why Casinos Matter report were really, very thoughtful proposals. But the core is, at the end of the day, casinos don't want best practices. They'll use the term, oh, we're doing these best practices for self-exclusion, but because their business model is based on getting you to be out of control.
Right.
The whole thing. That's why they give you free alcohol. That's why the casino, if they're open 24 hours, like all of it is based to getting you to the machine. The actual term that the industry uses for a slot machine is it's designed to get you to play to extinction.
Right.
Think about that. Play to extinction. What they mean by that is so that you play till you lost every last dollar that you came with.
Right.
And within your casino, and within your ATM account.
Right, and perhaps on your credit report, et cetera. There was a story out of Foxwoods, a guy in Rhode Island. I think he was in Tiverton, Rhode Island or somewhere. He had gone to Foxwoods. He brought $3,000 with him, figuring, I'm going to go hit it rich at the casino. Well, about 22 hours later, he was still awake. He was drunk, and he was broke. Yeah. So what did he do? He went to the credit window. Yeah. Foxwoods gave him a loan, $7,500. Here you go, sir, $7,500. Enjoy yourself now. Go have some more of our entertainment. And about half a day later, he was broke again. And now he's been awake for 36 hours. Yeah. And he ended up going home flat broke and heavily in debt. Foxwoods placed a lien on his house. Yeah. The scariest part of the story, he put together the money to pay off that lien, went down to Foxwoods, went to the credit window, paid it off. And the first thing they said to him when he paid it off was, your credit line is open again, sir. Yeah.
I mean, that's how. But a lot of time those stories end with the guy who'll kill himself.
Yeah.
Because you won't be able to pay the money back.
Right.
Right. But all those practices that you described, like, just so your viewers understand this, that's a government program.
Right.
Okay. No other business could use such exploitive and predatory tactics. Okay, unless they're being prosecuted by state attorney generals. Okay, right. they'd be in jail.
Right.
All right. Yeah. Casinos get away with these exploitive practices because they're partners with state government. Yeah. State attorney generals, they're on the team.
Right.
Okay, and I have hope there's a new attorney general coming into Massachusetts named Maura Healey.
Yes.
Who, at least for her primary campaign, talked much about the casino issue.
Right. I actually saw her at one of our Yes on 3 meetings. She came to one of our Yes on 3 meetings and addressed the group. Okay. And so I do have a lot of hope for what she'll do. So we'll see.
But she'll be the first in the country. State attorney generals have not weighed in on this because state government is a partner, and that's why, anyone who is meaningfully wants to do something, to change the direction of our country, to address inequality and fairness, to end the dishonesty that we see in government. It runs through this issue, and you have to get involved in the predatory gambling fight. Right.
So speaking of getting involved, if somebody wanted to find out more about Stop Predatory Gambling,
sure. So our website is stoppredatorygambling.org. We're based out of Washington D.C. I urge people to become members. Because ultimately, what we really need to do is we need to take action. There's going to be no silver bullet here. There's going to be no person riding in, on some horse. It's going to be citizens saying, this is just wrong. So the core principle to every successful social movement is awakening people's conscience, right? So really starting from slavery on down to the last, 250 years, 300 years, you have to awaken people's conscience. So you can present all the facts and stuff that we want to talk about this issue, because all the facts are there with us. But what we have to do ultimately is awaken people's conscience. And so what we really have tried to do, especially lately, but we've been working on this for a long period of time, but just lately we launched our National Victims advocacy project where we're encouraging people who've been harmed by this, either individual, maybe they're a former addict, maybe they had a loved one or a friend who's a gambling addict, maybe they were never addicted, maybe they just had incredible financial harm that suffered to them. Anyone who's been hurt by this public policy, we're asking them to come forward and start speaking out in their local community, within their social media networks.
Sure.
And that's what it takes. It takes everyday people to stand up and awaken people's conscience. And that's, as hard as it can be, we don't have, $20 million to go on television.
Right.
But what we do have is we have people. Really good people.
Powerful. We have stories of heartache. Yeah. Recently you sent out that letter to Massachusetts opinion leaders where you enclosed a penny.
That's right. Yeah.
Because of Scott Stevens, a man from Steubenville, Ohio, I think it was.
That's right.
Where he was a civic leader in his town. He had done many good things for his town. Helped to build a soccer field, etc. And he became addicted to the penny slots. That's right. And he ended up losing everything. He embezzled money from his employer. Yeah. He burned through his life savings. He got in trouble with the IRS. He burned through his daughter's college funds. He had 3 daughters, and he burned through all of their college money. Right. Eventually committed suicide in that soccer field that he had helped to raise the money to create.
Courtesy of a government program.
Courtesy of a government-sponsored program. Yeah. Again, like I said, it comes back to it puts our legislators and our civic leaders in the position where they have to advocate something that actually harms the public good. Again, a commonwealth is a political community organized around the common good.
That's right.
And yet here we have the leaders that we've elected to lead our commonwealth forward, advocating public policy that harms the citizenry.
But the key, though, in order to get political leaders to change their actions on this, it's going to take actions from you and me and everyday people.
Yeah.
And one of the lines I always tell people when I close my stump speech, I always talk about my big secret. Okay, so I have a big secret to share with you, all right? And my big secret is I have royal blood. Right, think about it. I don't look like a prince, but I do. I have royal blood. Just like Queen Elizabeth, Prince William, Princess Kate. Okay, but my royal blood is different than their royal blood. I live in a country where all blood is royal. Okay, all blood is royal in America today, and what we rule over, you have royal blood, I have, what we collectively rule over is broken right now. Mm-hmm. It's broken.
Right.
And it's up to you, what we collectively rule over, it's going to be up to us to fix it.
It's our sovereignty.
Yeah. It's up to us, you and I and everyone, to fix it. So you want our political, people say, well, I want the political leaders, you have to go out and work for it.
Right.
And that's the price of living in our country. You have to work for it. And that's the challenge, is getting people to exercise their royal blood. And once people have that sense, and the people who were involved with Casino-Free Milford, just like many countless other communities in this country who took action and knocked casinos out of their town, they exercise their royal blood. And once you do it, it is one of the most powerful things you can ever do.
Yeah.
And you look at, throughout history, history is made just like by people just like those here in Milford and elsewhere who took action, just everyday people.
Well, that's the saying, never underestimate the power of a small band of determined people to change the world.
That's
the only
how
thing that ever has.
Yeah. That's the great quote. That was as well said as anybody's ever said it. But but you look at every major social movement. The movement to end the slave trade, really began in Great Britain.
Right.
Was 12 people. 12 people. And I always use that analogy when I talk about hard fights or whatever. In the late 18th century, 75% of the world was enslaved in some way. Think about that. You would walk down the street, you wouldn't think twice. But 12 people helped launch a movement, and they changed the world. It took them 50 years. Yeah. They changed the world. So, and since then, whether it's women's suffrage, child labor laws, civil rights,
civil rights, voting rights, all the major struggles of our time.
It takes action from people to individuals. Mm-hmm. Just to act collectively to do it, and that's what it takes. So there's no silver bullet to it. It's just about doing the work. Okay. And so I'm committed to, we're going to do the work. I mean, people in Milford did the work. People in cities and towns across this country are doing the work, and you just keep it. The image I always use for people, in terms of our fight, is I use the image of a big muscular guy with a sledgehammer pounding a huge boulder, right? And it's kind of a takeoff of a quote where This is if you look at a stone cutter, you never know, ultimately he cuts the stone, but it wasn't the final blow that cut the stone.
Right.
It was all the blows that
yeah.
came before, and that's how you have to see it. It's just day in and day out, pounding the stone.
So speaking of sledgehammers, there's always the famous issue of famous image that is of Fiorello LaGuardia smashing slot machines, and you've actually had some experience along those lines.
I can honestly say you're sitting across from the only person in the United States that has smashed 2 slot machines before a state capitol. So hopefully there'll be a lot more people that will have done a lot more. But yeah, we've done 2 occasions because I mentioned the Great Depression earlier, right? How did politicians address, our so-called statesmen back in the Great Depression, how did they address the major challenges of the times? They did it by encouraging the American people to save, right? Buy savings bonds,
right.
Building we can do it. The attitude, building a middle class, and that's why after World War II we had the highest rate of savings in American history. Because people encourage people to save. But during that era, one of the most famous mayors in American history, one of whom was Fiorello LaGuardia, who was the mayor of New York City. Scholars see him as really the best mayor in American history. What he would do with slot machines, he would gather them up from across the city. He'd bring them to Rockefeller Center. He'd invite down a couple of Columbia University professors to speak about how slot machines are rigged against you. The slot machine racket, produce a pamphlet, hand it out to people. And then LaGuardia, very famously, would take a sledgehammer and smash the machines in Rockefeller Center.
He would take his jacket off.
Yeah, and he'd gather them all up, and he'd bring them out to New York Harbor, and he'd dump them into the harbor. That's how political leaders used to be on the side of the people. Now they're ripping people off, and so that day will come again. We will do it. Like if guys like Sam Adams were alive today, they'd be. Sam Adams, who's standing right, he'd be right with us, right?
Yes.
That's the truth.
Absolutely.
He'd be like, instead of a T-tax, he'd be like, government's ripping us off with cheating people with these machines. Like that's what they'd be, So, history is on our side. The key is you got to do the work.
Right.
We got to do the work. So yes, we've done a couple of occasions now. We just the first one we ever did was in New York State in late 2013 when New York State had a ballot question on casinos. And then we did another one in Massachusetts. And the one we did in New York, New York Times, there was incredible press coverage because it's a great visual. And it's pretty empowering to have a slot machine. Because all these people who promote, state governments promote this, they don't even know what a slot machine is. They don't play slot machines.
They don't play them.
There's 5 members of the Massachusetts Gambling Commission. None of them gamble. Also, let's go back to the point. So here you have people bringing in a product they don't even use. They're not familiar with it. They don't know how it works. It's one thing, they can read a book about it, right? But it's another thing to actually go in and study the machine and play it and understand the science behind it. And then once you do, because when most educated people learn this business, they get it. There's no gray area. There's some issues you can look at and be like, well, I can see it from this point of view, or I can see it from this point of view.
Right, well, as there is with a lot of political issues.
When it comes to the issue of government-sponsored gambling, there's a direct relationship between the amount of knowledge you have to you're how outrageous it is. And that's why they want to keep it as superficial as possible. So in a state like Massachusetts, when they come in here during the campaign, they spent almost $20 million, on the casino fight to push the bill through. Not one time did they ever really even say the word casino.
Right. It's all jobs. It's all.
Yeah. They say, what we're going to do? We're going to clean up an environmental site. So here you are. So you don't. If you don't, for 2/3 of the public who don't gamble at all, you're like, well, this is a good thing. I'm cleaning up a Superfund site. And it's not going to what a great thing. Another ad will show. Look, we're going to rebuild a city that was hurt by tornadoes.
Yes.
What a of course. Who could what a great
who could argue
thing.
with that? Yeah.
But they don't ever say. They're bringing in a casino. They purposely don't even talk about it. So that's the dishonesty of it all.
Right.
And we'll do it. The great thing about democracy, all right, is it has a self-correcting quality to it.
Right.
We make it doesn't mean it's mistake-free. We make mistakes in a democracy, but the great thing about a democracy is it has a self-correcting quality. But the only way that self-correcting quality gets exercised as if you and I exercise our royal blood.
Right, right. Now, you began to touch on this a little bit. We do have about 8 minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about slot machine design. When you were talking about smashing them, you did kind of allude to how they're designed and stuff, and we actually talked a little bit about that slot machine designer earlier who says slots are for losers. But let's talk a little bit about how slots are designed and the design of the machine.
Yeah, I mean, before I got into this issue, I mean, I'm in my mid-40s now. Like, I never woke up one day and be like, I want to spend the prime years of my life going around the country talking about predatory gambling. Like this issue found me. And part of the reason why it found me was the research of a professor at MIT named Natasha Schull, who had written some articles and then recently published a book about her study into how slot machine design works and the design and technology behind these machines. And her book is titled Addiction by Design. And her work was so significant, 60 Minutes did an entire segment on her work from January 2011. And for those of you who are interested, you should check it. It's called The Big Gamble. We actually had a little cameo in it, which was kind of cool. But aside from it, was really, the centerpiece was her, though. And what her research shows, all she did was she just went out and just really interviewed the guys that make the machines and say, the play to extinction is a term that she actually quotes a slot machine company executive describing their business model, that these machines are designed to get people to play as long as humanly possible, so they lose all their money.
Yep.
And the irony to that is, so on the one hand, the machine is designed to get you to sit there as long as possible to play it, okay? But on the other hand, mathematically, the machine is designed that the longer you play it, you're guaranteed to lose more and more money.
Sure.
So sure, you'll see people, I hit $200, I got a $200 pot on the slot machine. But if you kept playing, like over the course, you play a slot machine, most people play like, 10, 15 times a minute. You press that button every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So over the course of like a 6 to 8 hour playing span, which is where which is where the casinos make their money, these people that play for long periods of time, like you've probably played like 5,000 times.
Yeah.
So over the course of like 5,000 spins, that $200, that's gone.
Sure.
So the only way you win, if you hit the first, if you earn money, make money the first time you walk in, then you got to leave. But inevitably, they know you're going to lose because the whole goal is to get you to keep playing.
Right.
So the machine is designed to get you to play as long as possible, and then it's also designed that the longer you play it, the more it's guaranteed to make you lose.
Right.
So what a ripoff! So one is just the overall concept of it, but then all the features of the machine, the bells and whistles, all of that, it's all lured as part of to suck you in to get into what Natasha Schull, the MIT professor, calls the zone.
Right.
Most people who don't gamble, the 2/3 of the American public doesn't gamble. They think, well, people are playing to win, right? Most of these machine gamblers, the hardcore, out-of-control players, they're playing to escape. They're playing to get into the zone, just to zone the world out.
Yep.
And it's like getting high, like with heroin.
Sure. It's addictive. Yeah. Yep.
Well, to escape, and that's it. So people say, well, the difference between going rock climbing, right? So people say, well, I like to escape by going rock climbing, or I go jogging, or well, the difference between getting a positive high from rock climbing, or jogging, or the other, like you're not physically drained after that experience. You're not. It's empowering.
Right.
After 8 hours on a slot machine.
Right.
Again, you're drained.
You're physically exhausted.
Physically drained.
You're
wiped out.
exhausted.
And anyone who doesn't believe that, you just have to talk to people who do that. That's why again, the same reason why none of these casino operators and slot machine makers play their own machines. Like they don't go through that.
Right.
The people that use these machines, they just talk to them.
Yeah.
And they'll tell you.
Yeah. Well, the why casinos matter. If we want to get back to that, they talked a lot in there about the design of the video lottery terminal, is how they termed the machines, and some of the stuff that it does. I mean, it adapts to how the player's style is going, and on any times that it does pay out a jackpot, it also lists, if you had bet this much, look how much bigger your jackpot would have been. And all those types of things. It adapts to the player's style. It's a sophisticated computer program that is designed to take people's money. I mean, I'm a software engineer. I know how to design computer programs. And their computer program is not going to be ethical about what it's doing. It's going to do its job.
And that's why, to go back to the big theme here, for the viewers who just joined us, the 4 words that matter on this is everything you said. It's why it's dishonest. This is the reason why you should be opposed to casinos. It's because it's dishonest, as well as lotteries. You want to be opposed to casinos and lotteries because they're dishonest, harmful to citizens, and they're contributing to the unfairness and inequality of opportunity in our country. All these, so the machine, that's why, it's not about whether or not people gamble, you know? If you want to allow people, have your small license games, have your Super Bowl office pool,
Right,
you know?
or even poker night or whatever, yeah.
But but knock yourself out. But we're here because what we're talking about is a public policy that actively is exploiting and harming, millions of American citizens.
Yeah.
And it can happen to anybody. You mentioned the Scott Stevens case.
Yes.
He was a successful, he had no weaknesses whatsoever, a successful man in every way. His family actually thought it was good for him that he was playing the slots every once in a while because
he needed to blow off steam. Or,
this is a good, But the thing, all Scott Stevens did, and all these gambling addicts, all they did when it comes to slot machines, they just play the machines the way they were designed to be played.
Right.
That's all you did. That's all they did. They're
Right.
playing a machine
Right.
the way it was. So you can't stop playing it.
Right. There was nothing special there. There was nothing about that was, that he did something wrong or unfair or whatever.
And it's done with the blessing of government.
Right.
And
Again,
that's the outrageous piece of it.
Yeah. Again, like I said, it comes back to our politicians, our political leaders, actively advocating policies that are harmful to our citizens, and that's just wrong. Never mind whether you're in a Commonwealth or not. I mean, but it's just wrong for our politicians to basically lead us down the garden path. It's
and it's also there's a lot of it's notable that some politicians do resist it too. And I give them a lot of credit. There's a lot of good people both in this state and elsewhere who aren't afraid just to say that this is wrong. And there'll be more of it. But
my
going back to the point,
my favorite state senator, Jamie Eldridge, he stood up against the casinos. Very big.
And to go back to the reality is, in order to change, we collectively as people need to make this good politics for citizens. If we want politicians to change their views, we need to make it good politics for a lot of these political leaders to stand up and hammer it.
Right. Right.
And that'll happen, but we need to do the work for it. We need to go out there and educate people. You need to become a member of Stop Predatory Gambling. Go to stoppredatorygambling.org and join us and get involved in your community. If you see lottery money, all this stuff, it's beginning to confront people's conscience about how unjust this is.
As far as the Citizens for Milford and our roadmap is concerned, I do have copies of that available. At the end of this show, in the credits, my email address will come up on the screen. So if anybody who's watching wants to get a copy of that, by all means send me an email and I'll be happy to share it.
I think that's great.
And it really is a great document. I was proud of it when we put it together.
Yeah.
So we are down to it less. Believe it or not, an hour has gone by.
That's great.
So it's time for us to say goodnight.
Excellent.
You've been watching All Politics is Local. All Politics is Local is a production of the Greater Blackstone Valley Democrats. For more information about the Greater Blackstone Valley Dems, feel free to visit our website at www.gbvdems.org. My guest tonight was Les Bernal, National Director for Stop Predatory Gambling, and I'm very proud to have had him on my show. Thank you for tuning in, and good night, everybody.